Good morning, Year 11s. I thought I would record a little video about how the exam's going to look like. I know it sounds really silly because we've done it a lot in class, but I just think in terms of revision and build up to the exams, stress levels can get to you and you can kind of forget the very basics of what you've been doing over the course of your RGS journey in geography. So, in front of you is a breakdown of the different papers you do in geography. In total, there are 3 different papers. Paper 1 is all about the physical environment, so the physical geography, where you look at hazards, landscapes, rivers and coasts, and the living world. And along the way, you assess on a few geographical skills. Paper 2 is the human geography and the human world, where you look at urban issues in cities, look at economic world and the economies of different countries, LICs, NEs, and HICs, and then resources, which is food, water, and energy. And the same thing here, you get assessed along the way on a few geographical skills. And the final paper, paper 3, is a slightly shorter one. It's only 1 hour. It's worth a bit less. It's 30% of your grade, and it's about your fieldwork experiences. It's about an issue evaluation and pre-release, and it's along the way, same thing, assesses you on some of your geographical skills. I'm going to give you a breakdown of exactly what topics you need to know for each unit, but before that, I want to show you exactly some of the kind of key tips in geography. When you do your geography exam, this is kind of a box you'll see at the top of a lot of your exam papers. I think it's on the first page. You get an awful lot of multiple choice questions. There's some very important things here for you to listen to. It's because there is a clear instruction of how you need to complete these multiple choice questions. You need to circle inside the little circle, and you need to do that completely. If you get it wrong, you cross a whole box out. If you want to cross a circle, a previously crossed out answer, you do as below shown here. Which is a circle around the cross. The reason you can't do any other methods like the eye, the wave, the tick, the cross, or even shade the whole box is because a lot of these 1-mark questions get scanned in and get marked by basically artificial intelligence. So if you don't highlight it correctly, the computers just won't see you've given an answer and won't give you the grade. So if you do if you do it right, you get the mark. If you do it wrong, there's a chance your marks might be missed. Okay. The other big one is this: when it says "do not write outside the box" on the edge, it always sounds ridiculous, but it's the exact same reason as the type of shading. Is because every single paper gets marked by geography teachers around the country, unless in order not to overwhelm the Royal Mail, it's all scanned and sent to them via email. And so the only bit of your exam paper that gets scanned by the scanners is inside that box. You write outside that box, it won't be picked up by the scanners, and therefore you won't be marked by the examiners. So please make sure you stick to it. If you need extra paper, ask for some. Those will be scanned independently. Okay, so just it's little tethering issues that can have a big impact on your grade. Right. Next thing, paper 1 is about the physical world. It's about your physical geography. The first section is section A. It's on natural hazards, and section A includes tectonic hazards. So in the tectonic hazards, you've got earthquakes. You've also got weather hazards, which include your tropical storms, and you've got climate change, which include the causes, impacts, and responses. The only part there where you might make a mistake is in the tectonic hazards. Some schools teach earthquakes, some schools teach volcanoes. We teach earthquakes. So you'll see usually in the 9 marker, it'll say using a case study of your choice, and you'll be given a picture usually of an earthquake or a picture of a volcano, and it'll be using with a figure. Only use a figure that's relevant to you. In our case, the earthquake figure. Don't discuss volcanoes because we haven't learned as much about those. Okay. The physical world, there are 3 sections to it. Okay, rivers, coast, and glaciation. As geography teachers, we choose for you what we teach. We chose to teach you rivers and coasts because rivers and coasts have very similar processes. We did not teach you glaciation. Therefore, you're going to have to leave a whole bit of the exam paper blank on glaciation. That is fine. Don't panic about that. You will never have time to complete it, okay? Because otherwise it'd be too many marks for the amount of minutes you have. You only need to answer rivers and coasts. In the living world, you've got ecosystems, you've got tropical rainforests, and you've got the choice between hot or cold deserts. We chose hot deserts. There's a picture of one above in the USA. So only answer hot deserts. If you answer cold desert, it'll still be marked, but you'll have very wishy-washy knowledge of watching a frozen planet on the internet, which is great, or on BBC iPlayer, but it's not enough content for you to get the 9 marks out of 9. Okay, so focus on what we know, which is the Western Desert and the Sahara Desert in a hot desert. And along the ways, you need geographical skills. So they might ask you to do the mode, median, the mean. They might ask you to complete graphs. They might ask you to sketch something like a river meander. So make sure you bring pencil, ruler, calculator, pen, highlighters. They will not be provided for you in the exam. So if you don't have them, you'll have to make it all up yourself, and it'll lose in accuracy. Okay. So this is how the first paper one actually looks like. You've got a box here that tells you exactly what you need to do. Answer all questions in section A, which is hazards, all section B, which is living world, and 2 questions in section C, which in our case is rivers and coasts. Okay, it's an hour and a half paper, 90 minutes, 88 marks. It's basically a minute to mark. Don't waste time. Okay, and then over there at the front, you to use information there. You've also got a bit of definition of what HRC, LIC, and NE stands for. Okay, but this is what you end up in section C. This is how the exam looks like. It says section C, physical landscapes. Answer 2 questions from the following. In our case, we don't do glaciation. You just do rivers and coasts, so you leave question 5 blank. Okay, each question also has lots of different questions. So question 3, there'll be 3.1, 3.2, 3.5, 4, 3, 3.5, 3.6, etc. Okay, so there's more than one question per big question, but you can ignore the whole of question 5. All, I think it's 6 or 7 of sub questions in section 5. Paper 2 is the same idea. You have 1.5 hours. You've got this is worth 35% of your grade. And in urban issues, you might remember there's 2 case studies we do. You need to learn about NE city and you need to learn about HIT city. We teach Lagos in Nigeria, and in HIT city we teach you mostly about London, bits about Bristol because that's where we live. There are plenty of others. Other schools do other subjects, other cities like Rio. But we choose to do Lagos and London. They're the ones you've got the most information about. Okay, so please revise those as your big case studies. In changing economic world, the unit is divided into 3. First half is development. So how do you measure development? How do you shrink the gap? What causes the gap, etc. NEE, we look at an emerging economy of Nigeria and we look at the high income country of the UK. The reasons for these is because there's by revising Nigeria and the UK, you also revise Lagos and London in some ways. So we want to reduce the amount of revision you need to do and reduce the workload you need to do. Okay, so that we've kind of tried to overlap them as much as we can. The big complication paper 2 is the final section, which is resources. Resources, everyone around the whole country in the who do AQA Geography need to learn about UK food, UK water, UK energy. Everybody will be answering those questions. Once you've done these questions on UK food, water, and energy, you have to pick general questions about either energy, water, or food. Okay? We learned about energy, fracking, oil, gas, nuclear, renewables. We did energy. So there will be questions about water. There'll be questions about food, which you might be able to answer because we did do UK food and water. But in this case, it's more at the global scale. Therefore, you do not need to answer these questions. You only need to focus on energy. And the same again. Bring your pencil, rulers, calculators, pen, and highlighters for your skills. Okay, but to show you how it looks, same again. An hour and a half. You've got a section A, all the questions, which is urban issues. Section B, all the questions, which is economic world. Question 3, in section 3, I hate that instruction there. In section 3, you have to answer all of question 3, which is about the UK food, water, and energy, and then you have to answer question 4, 5, or 6, which is energy, water, or food. So it's also an hour and a half, 90 minutes, 88 marks, and a minute and a mark, basically. Again, some definitions there that can be useful. But this is a big one that stresses everyone out in an exam. Section C, answer all of question 3. Question 3 is challenges of resource management in the UK. Easy peasy. Just answer all of the question 3. Okay, so 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, you do them all. And then, in our case, we do not answer question 4 and question 5. We just answer question 6. So you have to leave 2 whole questions blank in your paper. That is normal. If you were to answer them, you'll be marked, but you will run out of time because you'll end up answering about 120 marks in total rather than 88 marks in 90 minutes. Okay? And then the final paper, paper 3, is about fieldwork. It's about issue evaluation and it's about geographical skills. In your fieldwork, there's 2 types. It's divided into 2 halves. One half is about your own fieldwork. They'll be asking you where you went, what you did, how you could improve it, what you found out, and what you discovered. And then you'll be given some data of an imaginary person with some imaginary data, and you'll be asked to tell me what can be done with this data. So maybe what's the best way to present this data set? What is a pie chart? What are the advantages and disadvantages of a pie chart? Ask questions about sampling strategies, etc. Okay, and then the other half of the paper is the pre-release. The pre-release is we've been looking at this year. It's released 12 weeks before your paper 3 exam, so we get to see the figures in class. We don't get to see the questions, but we can kind of predict what the questions are, so we therefore prepare you for that. Okay, again, this is the front cover of the GCSE paper 3. It's you need to answer all the questions. There isn't a single one you do not need to answer in that question in that paper. Sorry, it's an hour and 15, so it's 75 minutes, 76 marks. It's tight for time. But the reason it's so tight for time is because you've seen the figures, so you should be able to smash out the answers unbelievably quickly. Okay. Um. Again, just some definitions. And the pre-release is, like I said, it's published 12 weeks before the exam. It's got 3 figures. This year, you can see that it's about the Cayman Islands and tourism. Um. Each figure is a double spread or an A3 spread, so you basically have 6 pages of figures. When you answer the questions about the figures, it's all about the figures. You need to use the figures. You need to use the data from the figures. You need to use the information from the figures. It's an exam. It's a part of the exam where you do not have any AO1 grades. AO1 are you're making a point or using factual knowledge. You don't get rewarded for those because they're given to you in the booklet. They just assume you'll be able to use them. Okay, so don't come and bring out wacky facts you've learned about the Cayman Islands this year, for instance, because you did an incredible amount of research. It's not going to be rewarded. Okay, just focus on explaining the facts and the figures and evaluating it. Tell me the pros, the cons. So it's AO2, AO3. Okay. AO1, there isn't any. It's making a point. You just need to use the booklet. Hopefully, all this helps. Hopefully, this reassures you into what each paper looks like. If you've got any questions, obviously, do not hesitate to ask any of your geography teachers.